Okay? So, P stands for purpose and values. Why do we do what we do as a company? Who are we? What is our mission? Why should we care? Are people from the team excited about what we do? And what are our values? What do we stand for? As leaders, do we live our values? Culture, a great culture might actually save the day when difficult times happen. Let me give you an example. This is the company, the acceleration program organization of Mike Walter. March 2020. Everybody remembers, right? What happened? Corona happened. That's right. Our world changed. So what these guys did, because it was uncertain, right? They're running acceleration program, 5-month program in person for Stars founders. And you can't meet people. What do? You don't know. But what they did is they came together and they talked to the whole team, 65 people. And they told them, guys, can we delay your salaries, 30% of your salaries for the next 6 months? We'll pay you everything. Can you delay it? And we as founders, we're not going to get paid anything. Okay? Until we see what happens. See, when you have a great culture, when you invest in people before the crisis, people actually want to be there for you. People actually want to help you in difficult times. What ended up happening is, majority of the people, I think except 2 people, they said, yes, that's fine. Actually, you know what? Don't pay me anything. Pay me in 6 months when everything's fine. And the people were working even harder. Great culture matters. Investing in your people matters. Okay, moving forward. E, my favorite one, effective planning. Designing great planning structures. And I know some of you are now thinking, oh, I'm a creative person. Stoyan, I don't have time to plan my time. I'm just so busy, you know? How many of you are thinking a little bit about that? Okay, it's fine, right? I don't have time to plan my time. I wonder why. Maybe you didn't plan your time, so now you have no time for anything. As founders, as leaders, and executives, we need to teach and coach our team to plan their time. We need to create structures of planning. Who would be a better person to talk about productivity than David Allen, the author of Getting Things Done?
So productivity, it's got a lot of baggage to it, Stoyan, as you probably know. Everybody thinks productivity, oh my God, I have to sweat more, I have to work harder, more to do, to be more productive. I don't need that. And yet productivity simply means producing what you want. If you go on a vacation to relax and you don't relax, that's an unproductive vacation. You know, if you have a party and you want to have fun and you don't have fun, that's not a productive party. You know, you want to cook a nice dinner for your kids or your family and it's not a nice dinner and they don't have fun at all, it's unproductive. So productivity simply means achieving some sort of desired result, and that desired result could be some internal experience, happiness, relaxation, fun, you know, whatever.
Productivity simply means producing what you want. What are you after? Why did you come to this conference? What's the outcome? What's the result you're after? And at work, have you coached your people to a place that before they start doing something, they actually intentionally know what that something is? Simple stuff, but it takes work, it takes effort, right? Simple way to look at this. I know there's very complicated planning structures, but it all comes down to these 3 things. How do we set goals? How do we set objectives, right? What are the priorities of each person in the team so that we can achieve these objectives? And how do we manage our time on day to day? What is our daily focus, right? Let me give you an example. This is a company from Hungary doing actually really well. On the second part, when they have the goals and objectives, every month the management is going to meet up and they have to pitch to the rest of the managers what their priorities should be. Okay? They can only choose 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they have this rule of thumb. So 30% of my energy and resources need to go to the number 1 priority. 25% to the number 2. So now top 5 priorities should be taking 90% of your time. Interesting enough, if I can go back, the guy with the green, Zoltik, he's actually the CEO. I know him, he's a workaholic. He works a lot, right? Even though he's the hardest working person, he only have 3. Why? Because the fewer the priorities, the more focused you are. Do you know what's the top 3 priorities at the moment? And if you're a leader, if you're a manager, have you taken the time to make sure everybody knows what their priorities at the moment are? Simple stuff, right? Moving on. Roles and responsibilities. Wait a second. I know my role. I'm the chief marketing officer. I'm the vice president of sales. By the way, with founders is the best. You meet 3 people, founder team, and one of the people say, I'm the vice president of sales. And he's the chief marketing officer. Like, you're 2 people, man. Who are you chief of? Okay, fine. You know your role. But what are your responsibilities? What are you taking ownership for? Is everybody clear from the team? And do you pay attention to not only what people are good at, but also what people love to do? What are their passions? Imagine working in a company where your manager consistently understands and learns what your desires are, what you want to develop in, and allocates responsibilities in that direction. Wouldn't that be a more resilient team? Very simple exercise everybody can do tomorrow is you get your team together and you ask them, from all the tasks and responsibilities, what are the things that you love to do? Green. That's, it's okay to do it. What are the things that you hate to do? Let's point it out. Let's map it out. Let's try and see how we can give you more of the things that you love to do, so you can perform. You can actually be excited and motivated to wake up in the morning and come and do the stuff, okay? So get to know your people. Okay, F stands for focus and execution. You can be planning, right? There's a lot of those planners, always planning, but at the end of the day, it's about focus. What are you focused on? And it's not about saying yes. All these 200 plus people that I've been talking to, they're not yes sayers. These are no sayers. How many are just struggling to say no? Honestly, raise your hand. Not so good, right? We gotta learn to say no. And it's easier when you know your priorities, of course. A very good question to ask yourself is coming from a book called The One Thing. Jay Papasan, go get the book. By the way, these are business guys. They built the largest real estate company in the world based around the principle, around this question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or necessary? What's the one thing I can do in my marketing such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or necessary? What's the one thing I can do in my relationship such that by doing it, right? You teach your team to ask yourself these type of questions. And you tell them, you know what, when you find what's the one thing on a daily basis, spend your morning, spend your attention on producing results with the one thing before anything else. Your productivity is going to skyrocket. And when crisis hits, you gotta be resilient, you'll be a lot better. Okay? Optimal energy, the well-being, making well-being a priority. And you're the example, guys. You can't expect everybody else to be taking care of themselves and create such a culture if you're not doing the thing. How well are you doing in each of these areas? How good are your habits? Have a good look. Take a picture. And ask yourself, how am I doing in terms of my energy? Or let me look around my team. Are people rested and sleeping enough? Are people surrounded by positive and inspiring people? You know, that's the art. By the way, we are so dependent around the people that we are surrounded by. Very good question to ask yourself. Who are the 3 people in my life that generate the most negative energy? Something to think about. Okay, moving on. Robust communication. And with communication, the core of everything is creating trust. Making your team a place, a safe place for people to be able to share, to be able to admit mistakes. Creating trust, allowing any kind of conversations to happen. I love what this guy's Shane Herbert, he's a Hollywood cinematographer, he worked on those movies, and asked him about leadership. Shane, in my podcast. Shane, what's your biggest challenge as a leader? You know what he said? My biggest challenge is to ensure that every person from the team is making the same movie. Think about it. Is everybody in your company making the same movie? Is the marketing and operations and sales making the same movie? In your relationship, is you and your partner making the same movie? Going towards the same vision, right? Communication, building trust. Teams that communicate are a lot better, a lot more resilient. Okay? Last but not least, mental toughness. Our capability to deal with stressors. Because as a leader, you're the CMO. You're the Chief Motivation Officer. I don't care how you feel. You're the one that needs to remain calm when things are not going by plan. Everybody's looking at you. You don't have the luxury to show up occasionally. This is Kylie. Anybody heard about a company called Thunderbeam? So it's a company from Estonia doing really well, so-called Unicorn. Heidi used to be the CEO of the Tallinn Stock Exchange, and she told me this story. One morning she wakes up at the wrong side of the bed, and she goes to the office, and her office is at the end of the corridor. So basically she needs to walk through the whole corridor. She's grumpy. 10 minutes later, she just said the word. 10 minutes later, the head of HR comes to her office and says, Heidi, what's going on? Is everything okay? Yeah, I just didn't have my coffee, there was traffic. Yeah, because there have been 3 people from the team that came to my door, to the HR, asking me, what's going on? Is somebody getting fired? What's happening? I was like, oh. I listened to the story and I was like, oh my God. How am I showing up when things are not good in front of my people? Because your people are a reflection of you, right? So, getting back to it, have a good look. Perform. How do we perform as a team? Take a picture, right? If we master these areas, if we consistently pay attention to these areas, we might actually have a chance to build a resilient team that performs in the long run. Now, if you want to learn more, you can go and check out our book, of course, with more than 50 interviews and case studies with successful leaders from our region. You can follow the podcast, listen from some great leaders. I'm probably the biggest listener in the podcast. Listen to it 5 times. And last but not least, I would love to connect with you guys. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I'll be here by the end of the day. Let's have a chat, let's talk. And yeah, that's for me from my side. Thank you so much and keep performing.